Hey guys, I'm John Setzler. Welcome back to Man Cave Meals. Last week I took you on a tour of the SMOBOT. We did a shorter cook of some beef ribs with that. But this week I want to run that guy overnight. We're going to do a long cook. I've got a pork butt that weighs a little over 9 pounds. So we're going to toss it on the smoker, let it go overnight, let the SMOBOT run the smoker and keep up with the temperature of the meat. So let's get started. The first step to the perfect pork butt is firing up the Kamado Joe Classic 3. I've got some charcoal in here, I've got it lit. I've put some pecan chunks in there, so we're just going to close the lid. I have the SMOBOT installed on top, ready to go. I'll power up the SMOBOT controller, and as soon as it comes up, it's initializing the vent. We're already in auto mode, so I'm going to set this guy up. You can set up for I like to set up between 200 and 210 for the first part of this cook. So I just set it here at 205. And while the grill's coming up to temperature, we'll go get the pork butt ready. We're gonna start out with this beautiful 9.2 pound pork butt. And I like to score the top of mine with a diamond pattern. That's completely optional. I like to use a thin smear of mayonnaise as a rub binder. And then we put on a nice coat of whatever your favorite pork barbecue rub is. And as soon as the grill's up to temperature, I'll meet you at the grill. We are up to temperature, so I'm gonna pop the lid here and we're gonna set this pork butt right in the middle. And I'm gonna get my meat probe. What I like to do is find that flat bone, that scapula. I like to go in right on top to where I actually hit that bone and then pull it back just a hair from there. So I've connected that guy to the SMOBOT over here. It's actually reading 40 degrees internal there. I've had this guy out on the counter for a couple hours now. And we're just gonna close up and we're not gonna look at this again for 12 hours. We are 12 hours into this cook, so we're gonna have a look. That's looking pretty good, but our bark's not where we want it to be yet. So what I like to do at this point is raise the temperature on the grill to 300 degrees. So I'm gonna set the SMOBOT for 300, let it open its vent up and let the temperature come up in that. And we're gonna come back a little bit later and have a look at the bark and determine at what point we're gonna wrap. Okay, we're almost 14 hours in here and I'm pretty happy with what my bark looks like at this point. So right here I'm going to pull this off, I'm going to double wrap it in foil and we're going to bring it right back. So I've double wrapped this guy in foil and I'm going to go right back in with my probe right where we were, where I'm actually touching that bone and pull back just a little bit. So we're going to close this guy up, let this finish at the same temperature at about 300 degrees, and we're going to finish up probably at a target temperature of the meat around 205. So we'll be back to have a look. Okay, we're about 15 hours, right at about 15 hours into this. I just checked this. I took the meat probe out because we are probing tender. This guy's looking amazing. Yeah, everything looks great here. I'm at 206. I'm at 205. Everything's good there. So I'm gonna wrap this guy right back up and we're gonna toss it in the cooler and let it rest for a couple hours. I've let this guy rest for about 3 hours in the cooler and we're gonna pull it out here and have a look. The first thing we're gonna do is just yank that bone out so you can see how cleanly that guy pops out. That's sign number one that you have a perfectly cooked pork butt, when the bone comes out clean. So what I do from here is I just dump this into my tub with any of those reserved renderings that are left behind in there, because I'm going to mix that right back in with this pork as I shred it. And this is still piping hot, so I like to put my gloves on. I've got these gloves that I picked up at Harbor Freight. I don't know what kind of gloves these actually are, but they're nitrile on the inside. They're good for handling hot food. They're not good for handling hot grill parts, but as you can see, this pork butt's just gonna fall apart for us. And this is what I call my perfect pork butt method. And the SMOBOT did a great job with this. It held my Kamado Joe at the 200 to 205 range for 12 hours, just like I like to. And when I was ready to ramp it up to 300, I just opened up the bottom vent a little more and let it come up to temperature on its own. And it did. It came up in about 10 or 15 minutes to 300 degrees where I could finish this guy off. Finish setting my bark, and then getting a good nice cook on that. That's perfect. So that is my perfect pork butt procedure. 12 hours, super low and slow, and then 2 to 3 hours more at 300 degrees. It's like clockwork. These things finish up 14 to 15 hours every time. You can count on it when you're using a 9 to 10 pound butt. So I'm going to package this up like I normally do. I vacuum seal this stuff, and then we'll come back and have a look at some screenshots from the process from the SMOBOT. So this first screenshot that I've got here is shortly after we started the grill. You can see the temperature ramping up, and I've set the grill temperature for 205 degrees Fahrenheit. I have got my pork butt on there. I've got the meat probe in it, and it's reading 40 degrees on the meat probe. So at this point, on the next screenshot here, I decided I wanted to go ahead and set up an alert for my ambient temperature. So I set up a plus or minus 30 degree alert where I would get some sort of alarm if my grill temperature fell below 170 or went above 230 during this process. And when you come back to that main screen, it'll show you right here, as shown on this image, that you do have an alarm set for your grill temp. I did not set an alarm on the meat temp at this point because it's just not necessary in my process. So we went for 12 hours, and here's what that screen looks like after the 12-hour mark. I've come out, I stopped, I showed you guys what was going on in the video at the 12-hour mark, but you can see how well the SMOBOT held temperature for us across this blue line, and you can see the meat temperature as it rises up here. And at the 12-hour mark, our meat temperature is at about 156, and as you saw in the video, I'm not ready to wrap it yet. My bark's not set where I want it, but in my perfect pork butt process, this is the point where I ramp the temp up, and you can see on this screen that out here, that black line that's rising up out there at the end indicates that I have raised my set temp. So the next screen is a little bit further into that process where you can see that I've run my grill temperature up and the meat temperatures continued to come up. There's a little bit of a dip here because I repositioned my meat probe. I do that. I check it with an instant read thermometer, and I find where I really want that meat probe to be, and I may readjust it even more than once during this process. So on the next screen, as you can see, I went ahead and set up an alert for the meat temperature to give me an alert when I got up to around, I actually initially set it at about 200 so I could go out and have a look at it. And I wasn't quite ready at that point, so I looked at it some more, and here's just kind of final picture. This is the last picture that I captured in the process to show what had been going on. And you can see here on this meat temperature graph that I actually repositioned my meat probe a couple of times. Sometimes pork butts get ready in one place and not others, so you want to keep an eye on where your lowest temperature is in there and leave it in there until it gets nice and tender. So that's where we are. That's the pork butt cook. This thing did a great job. I'm also really happy with everything I've seen here so far on the on the SMOBOT. It's doing a great job. I'm gonna wrap this video up with that, but I'm gonna make another short video. It's gonna be a really short video about what I feel would be an adequate maintenance and cleaning for this SMOBOT. This device is going to need to be cleaned periodically because it's going to get gummy and dirty from the condensing fat that builds up on it. It'll get cruddy just like a dome cap on your Kamado grill or on whatever kind of grill you're using. So this thing's going to want to be cleaned periodically. Mine is, I've cooked on it 3 or 4 times now, and it's probably not dirty enough that it has to be cleaned. It's still working, but I'm going to clean it with a procedure that I think is probably going to work. I hope it's going to work because I've never done it before, but I'm going to show you what I intend to do, and then we'll see how well it works. So stay tuned for that video, and until next time, this is John Setzler with Man Cave Meals.